Beyond putting money into RRSPs, many people don't think a lot about what their retirement finances will look like until almost that time when they're ready to enter that phase of their lives. Joining us now to discuss retirement planning is Paul Lindsey of MacMillan Estate Planning. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jen.
So what are some of the main points that we should be thinking about as we plan for retirement?
Well, the first thing that perhaps we should think about is well, actually, I saw a statistic recently that said that because we're all living longer, that could mean that we're going to be spending significantly more time in retirement, potentially as long as we did during our working career. And that's actually quite frightening. But when we look at how we're going to plan for that from a financial perspective, the first point is, well, how much am I going to need? What am I going to be doing? Am I going to be a traveler in retirement? Am I going to be someone who wants to take on some projects or just spend time with grandkids? And then we look at each of our different pots in terms of where we're going to generate the income from. So it could be Canada Pension Plan, it could be OAS, it could be employee programs like defined benefit schemes. And once we've used those up, then we've got to look at, well, what other investments do we have? And it could be, as you mentioned, your RSP or your investment accounts, so that we can see, well, where are we getting the surplus from? How hard do those investments need to work? More importantly, is it realistic? Just because we want $500,000 a year in retirement income, if that means our estate would have to generate an 80% rate of return, in my humble opinion, that's possibly a little bit unrealistic.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be cheap, I don't think, right? Regardless of what happens in retirement. So are there any particular investment strategies that you have in mind when you talk about generating income during retirement?
Yeah, I think the first thing to mention is that when we move into retirement, our tolerance to investment risk changes quite considerably, because as we go through life, when we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s even, our attitude to risk is a little bit more relaxed. We can deal with the ebbs and flows in the market because we don't need our retirement fund at that point. But obviously all of that changes when we hit retirement, and that is our only means of generating income traditionally. So when we look at financial planning from a retirement perspective, the primary focus is about protecting the estate as much as possible. We want to know that if anything happened in our lives, our retirement nest egg is not at risk. And we use all sorts of things, including principal guarantees, to ensure that this is the case and that the value of our investments are there and are protected for retirement. And the final point perhaps I would make here, and this is more of a taxation perspective, is that if we are diligent with our RSPs, hopefully there will be a little bit of a pleasant surprise annually as you see that value going up and up. But that increased value can create certain tax implications, which we also need to be quite cognizant.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about RSPs because, yes, I think people always think just put the money into an RSP, but that's not necessarily the best for everybody.
Well, I mean, again, anything to do with estate planning is very much based on an individual's unique circumstances. RSPs are great, as I say, because of that tax-deferred growth as we're saving for retirement, but it's more the point that when we are in the retirement phase, what do they look like then? Are they going to cause a huge problem for our estate when we pass away? Are they actually giving us income that maybe is pushing us into another tax bracket? So they're wonderful on the surface, but as your circumstances change, we need to keep doing that analysis as to their ongoing suitability, I suppose.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for your suggestions. That is Paul Lindsey, MacMillan Estate Planning. Thank you.
Thank you.